Whether you agree or not, Thunderbolts was a defining Marvel film. It was a break from the multiverse-obsessed timeline of Marvel to focus on a story rooted in the emotional background of the characters who defeat the Void, an invincible shadowy villain born from the dark depths of Robert Bob Reynolds' mind. For many, this was their introduction to the Void and its positive counterpart, Sentry. The story of Sentry has always been a dark one, and today we're going to dive into an incident in Sentry's life that is almost as shrouded in shadows as the Void, and explore his relationship with the other superheroes. Written by Paul Jenkins and illustrated by Jae Lee, this 5-issue miniseries is intriguing to say the least. Now, I don't want to keep on talking or accidentally give away any spoilers, so let's get started. Who am I, and where is my head? It's a dark night lit up by only lightning. Everyone is asleep in the Reynolds household when suddenly a loud laugh wakes Robert up. Robert wakes with a scream. The laugh can only mean one thing: the Void is back. His wife Lindy asks him what the matter is, but he doesn't want her to worry. So he tells her that he woke up to let the dog out. He debates whether it was just his imagination, but he knows it was real. He cannot remember how long it's been since he last heard that laugh. It might have been years, but there's no clarity in his memories, as if he's waking up just now from a dream. He doesn't know what he's been up to, nor how he got into the house. All he remembers is that he heard the Void laugh. As if on instinct, he pulls out a book from the bookshelf and opens it up to reveal a hollowed out space which holds a bottle. If the Void is back, he'll be stronger than ever, and humanity will be in danger like never before. Their only hope will be Robert. A comic book flashes into memory, titled Startling Stories Featuring the Sentry with the Power of a Million Exploding Suns. The book promises to tell readers the secret of the Sentry. He also remembers a young version of himself discovering the professor's secret formula as he picks the bottle up from the book. He remembers drinking it and is transformed miraculously from a young meek freshman to the Sentry, a powerful protector. Young Rob had put an end to his classmate Buzz's bullying and charmed girls with his powers. That night, he had sewn his golden suit. Standing in his living room, holding the bottle, Bob does not look powerful. He's not fit. His body looks weak and weathered. His face carries fatigue. His golden suit hangs in a room, untouched. If the Void is back, he has no choice but to wear it again. As he takes a sip of the serum, the memories and powers all flow through him, reminding him of his glorious past, the Golden Guardian, leaping through the air, untouched by the elements around him, as he warned Spider-Man to look out for the villain of the week. A photograph taken by Peter to show everyone their benevolent protector, the Sentry, flying alongside Watchdog. The thought enters his mind that all of that did not happen. Maybe it was a comic book he read, or a TV show. But even in this doubt, he knows the Void is real. An echo of the past surrounds his mind, fighting the Void alongside the mighty Avengers, who proved to be useless against the formidable foe. But the Sentry had defeated him, and before disappearing, the Void had promised to be back. Bob knows the Void always kept his word. He walks out into the yard, letting the air surround him. The professor had warned him that the serum induces a photosynthetic reaction, causing a hyper state of consciousness. It caused each atom in his body to be ahead of the current timeline. The professor had told him his powers were limitless. He was omnipotent and immortal, but he didn't know what would happen if he took the serum for too long. With each boost, Bob needed to increase his dosage, so he was slowly becoming dependent on the drug. Bob hadn't worried about it, and his concern was saving the galaxy. As he walks back in, Bob wonders again if it's just his imagination. As proof of his reality, he finds a broken confluctor, the last relic of the Temporalon homeworld after the Void attacked. He had promised himself he would use the device to defeat him, so he tries to fix it, as the device would disorient the Void for a while. But his sharp scientific mind is not what it once used to be. He takes another swig of the serum to help him focus. A voice suddenly booms from behind him. The Void, speaking through his dog, calls him a pathetic junkie and accuses him of not getting rid of him permanently so that he could become humanity's hero. The Void tells him that he's the face of Rob's soul and that he is the Void. Bob screams that he's not real and kicks the dog. Lindy hears the noise and rushes down. She's appalled that her husband kicked the dog. Bob tries to explain that the Void is back, but Lindy's attention is on the bottle on the floor. She accuses him of hiding his drinking habit and not getting the necessary help to treat his alcohol addiction. Tired of his lies, she tells him that she'll go and live with her friend for a few days and take the animal with her. Bob doesn't bother explaining and simply says okay. Lindy will be safer away from him. No one except Bob remembers who he is. He opens the door to his closet and pulls out his golden jacket. He wears the superhero suit, though it does not look like that by any standards. The cloak is pinned to the jacket with clothespins. As he reaches the sky, his feet slowly leave the solid land. Fantastic memories. Bob looks up at the sky as his own words haunt him. He is Bob Reynolds, a private citizen, not a hero by a long shot. He believes he was once somebody important, but he's 30 pounds overweight and he drinks too much. So you do the math on that. Who gets to decide what's real anyway? His mind chastises him for always wanting to be someone and not just one of the crowd. He doesn't even like heights, but here he is now on top of a crane on the yet-to-be-constructed Fantastic Four Tower. Something tells him that an important event occurred here, a monumental one. This was the place where the Void had struck down his sidekick, Billy, and sent him crashing into the basement. He remembers the explosion that followed, the echo of a million people screaming, and Manhattan being reduced to a huge black hole. As he bows his head in the memory, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic's elongated body, asks him who he is. Bob greets him with familiarity and asks him if he's noticed that many of the buildings were built recently. Reed is intrigued by how the man was able to penetrate the tight security of the area. Bob tells him that it won't matter if he tells Reed, as Reed would not believe him anyway. Reed demands an explanation anyway, and Bob tells him he got there as he always did. Bob doesn't have an explanation as to why yet, but he realized everyone has been conditioned to forget his existence. As Reed threatens to call the cops on him for trespassing, Bob asks him to remember a wedding with a unicorn before disappearing. As Reed racks his memory, the only thing he hits upon is the fact that he's not allowed to remember the wedding. Reed rushes home where the Thing and the Human Torch are couch surfing and watching some conspiracy theory show. The host tells them about a Turkish woman who claims her entire village was swept away by a devil who came from the sky. Reed asks Sue if she remembers any wedding they went to that had a unicorn, and suddenly, the two notice a golden unicorn bust on their mantle. Reed wonders where the unicorn came from, and with an odd sense of deja vu, he picks it up. As Bob rides the subway back home, his own voice tells him that he is Bob Reynolds, someone who can never be a hero. He dreams of his wedding day where he finally confessed to Lindy that he was the Sentry. He was the one who was surprised though, as Lindy told him she knew all along. His best man at the wedding was Reed Richards. Reed had asked Ben to make sure Tony Stark, who had been drunk as a skunk, made it home safe. Bob had been feeling pretty grateful that day, honored that so many superheroes attended his wedding. He was the one who gave him the unicorn as a present for being his best man. Reed had interpreted the unicorn as being metaphorical of Bob. Just like a unicorn, he only showed his true self to the pure and deserving. Bob had given the present as something to remember him by if they ever lost touch. Reed was speechless with love. Bob is shocked to remember Reed was his best friend and wonders how they would all make them remember their shared past. There's no doubt in his mind now that he is a hero. The Sentry. His nemesis, the Void, is about to return to Earth. No one knows where he comes from or why, but he exists, and he steals human souls. He gets the urge to scream out on the train that he is a superhero, but he doesn't. He feels the stare of the people surrounding him and realizes he no longer casts a shadow. Below the unicorn, Reed and Sue find a videotape titled Wedding Video. Hairs on the back of Sue's neck stands up as she gets the feeling of a secret being forgotten. Reed pops the tape into the VCR, much to the irritation of Johnny, who wanted to continue watching his mindless conspiracy show. Reed's face pops up on the TV and tells them that if they're watching this tape, it means they're all as good as dead. A massive conspiracy and changes on the horizon. Bob can feel everything changing. His body is no longer like it was a few hours ago. His hair is luscious, his body covered in muscles. His shoddy jacket appears to be brand new, and the clothespin holding his cloak together have turned into golden lightning bolts. He approaches the Hulk, and Hulk immediately recognizes him as Golden Man. Bob theorizes that Hulk only remembers him because of Banner's transformation process. Most likely, Bruce Banner has no idea who he is. Bob is glad Hulk remembers, though. He crushes a stone into a golden orb and gives it to the Hulk as a souvenir so that he can continue to remember him. Hulk asks him why he's returned now, as he had gone away for so long. Bob tells him that it's because of the Void. Hulk asks in fear if the Shadow Man is really coming back. Bob comforts him and asks him if he can count on him when the Void returns. Hulk promises to be the bravest for his best friend. As he leaves, he tells Bruce that it's going to get worse than ever before. On the screen, Reed tells them that if they're watching the video, it would mean that a man named Robert Reynolds showed up claiming to be the Sentry. Real-life Reed confirms the same to everyone. TV Reed continues to warn them about the Void and his return, but soon the screen begins to glitch and the VCR begins to burn. Sue covers all of them in a force field as the VCR explodes. They all look at Johnny, but he swears he's innocent. A military captain and the Minister of the Interior arrive at a village to inspect something. The captain asks the minister to wear a gas mask as they have quarantined the area. The minister does not think it's necessary, as his only duty is to talk to the people, who are extremely superstitious and consider rain and natural phenomenon as omens from God. As he heads out of the chopper, he is shocked to see the area covered in a deadly smoke that has knocked out an elephant too. Reed feels like he's being drawn into a whirlpool as facts rush all around him before he has time to grasp them. Voice and video analysis had proved Bob Reynolds is the man he claimed he was, but his social security number belonged to someone who died years ago. So whoever was trying to hide him had gone through a lot of trouble to hide him well. It was not the Federal Witness Protection Program, as he doesn't remember being placed in any programs. Reed also had noticed an acute fear of the darkness, something he had not felt since he was a child. As Bob broods, sitting alone on the top of a building, Spider-Man arrives. He calls him Peter and asks if he's ever had the sense that he's forgetting something. Spider-Man asks if he knows him. With a smile, Bob tells him that he is the reason he won a Pulitzer Prize, and quotes a skit on The Tonight Show that showed both the Sentry and Spider-Man meeting on a building while trying to pretend that they were not gay. All that blabber makes no sense to Peter. Bob jumps off the cliff while floating, shows Peter a photo of himself floating. Spider-Man tells him that he can't see anything on a blank piece of paper that he's showing him. Bob gives it to him straight. He tells him he is Robert Reynolds, aka the Sentry, and that he and Spider-Man defeated the Void when he joined forces with Wilson Fisk. That does not jog Peter's memory, and he calls him a fruitcake. He thinks Bob is in league with Mysterio, and asks him to tell Mysterio to meet him directly if he has anything to say. Bob stops him, as Peter is supposed to ignore him. Peter asks him to give him just one reason to believe him. Bob asks him to go through copies of Clarion and Life and Time magazine and ask himself why are they misnumbered. Reed goes through his records and finds a vial containing newspaper clippings about the Sentry and the Void. A voice confirms what Reed had been suspecting. Sentry does exist. Reed turns around to see Dr. Stephen Strange. His appearance only confirms the importance of events. Strange tells him that long ago, Reed had told him if he ever asked that question, Strange should convince him not to listen to the answer. They both were aware, though, that it would be an impossible task. Reed asks Strange who Robert is. Strange speaks cryptically. He tells Reed that soon, the whole world will awaken as if from a dream, remember who he is, and wish they had remained in their dream. Reed's curiosity is no surprise to Strange, as he knew Reed would be someone who was always in pursuit of knowledge. Strange is willing to give him the remaining pieces of the puzzle, but he tells him that it's up to Reed to choose whether to proceed or try to forget that he ever met the man. Reed's confused by his words and asks what he is choosing. Strange tells him that he'll be choosing how their universe ends. Reconnections. Reed is thrown in for a loop. He knows Sentry exists. Strange confirmed it too, but Strange wants him to forget the man without giving him any explanation. Reed asks Strange if he would let it go if he was in Reed's position. Strange says no, he would not, and shows him an event from their shared past. It shows Reed working on a device. Everything hinges on the device working, and if it didn't, there would be a catastrophe beyond imagination. Before he turns on the device, he turns to Strange and makes him promise that if they ever remember the Sentry, he'll do everything he can to make them forget. Seeing that event, Reed understands that it was Strange who destroyed the VCR tape. Strange asks him if he can take his own advice. Professor X, or Charles Xavier, leads a training session of the X-Men when the Sentry talks to him telepathically. Charles is certain he knows the Sentry, but his identity is beyond his grasp. As Charles tries to find out who he is in Sentry's memories, he finds the Void and asks him if he truly is so evil. Sentry refuses to answer the question till he remembers who he is. Charles tries to remember, and all he can remember is that it is wrong to remember him. The X-Men watch in concern as his head lolls backward as he talks with the Sentry. Bob looks at the young X-Men and realizes a lot has changed since he went away. Charles suddenly remembers who he is and asks Sentry where he's been. Sentry doesn't know, but he warns him that the Void is returning and they should all try to remember as much as they can. As Sentry leaves, Charles cancels the rest of the session as he has preparations to make. Things are going far worse in Europe, where Red Dragon, who is out on a mission, reports back to the superheroes of Europe, or she, that Shamrock and Javelin are gone. He begs for help before their attacker returns, but it's too late and the message ends with a muffled scream. The superheroes of Europe are left with no resources to deal with the all-new events surfacing. Claymore, who had gone to investigate the sudden unexpected eclipse over Glasgow, has not returned. Gunner and Yvette had reported that the general had seemingly committed suicide, and now Red Dragon and the others had been killed. They now inevitably need to reach out to the American superheroes for help. Before they can do anything, they receive news of unusual psionic activity from a large black cloud heading to Kiev, Ukraine. Peter goes through all the magazines he can find in the Daily Bugle, but for the life of him, he cannot find out why Clarion skips from issue number 472 to 474 with no explanation. He asks Robbie, his editor-in-chief, who tells him that he's not allowed to. As he forces his memory, he remembers the cover of issue number 743, a photo he took of Sentry with great eagerness, as he believed Jonah would pay a fortune for a photo so up close. Tony steps out of a party when suddenly Sentry appears in front of him. Tony recognizes him as Rob Reynolds and asks him where he's been hiding. Tony says the same thing everyone has said so far, that he feels like he's not supposed to remember why. Sentry grabs Tony's shirt and asks him why this happened to him of all people, the superhero who taught other superheroes the way to be heroes. He tries to remember, but all he can think of is that something bad happened. He remembers facing Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Wasp, Ant-Man, Stephen Strange, and Mr. Fantastic. Strange held him in the highest regard, but after the grave revelation, he needed something to be done and someone to be held accountable. Iron Man thought that was ridiculous, as Sentry had saved them all 1,000 times. Sentry told Iron Man it was okay, as he should have known the difference between right and wrong by now. Captain America asked him if he could honestly say he was not relying a lot on the serum. Sentry begged them to reconsider, as the Void would not dare return to Earth again, but they all knew that it was not something they could know for sure. So, it was decided that Sentry must die. He asks Tony who decided to send him away, but Tony has a hard time remembering it. His memory is 1,000 fragments lost to time. Sentry tells him about the return of the Void and asks him to petition everyone on his behalf. As he flies away, Tony is shocked that the Void is returning so soon. Meanwhile, Billy wakes up in his bed with dreams and nightmares of his adventures with the Sentry. He's in bad shape now. His last encounter with the Void had robbed him of a limb and given him deep scars on his face and chest. Sentry wonders who it was that betrayed him and sent him away, but deep down, he knows the matter is more convoluted than that. The answer to all his questions beckons him from the edge of Manhattan. Slowly, he looks up to see what has been hiding in plain sight: the Watchtower, his fortress. Betrayal. The centrally located organic computer, or clock, welcomes the Sentry into the Watchtower, and he asks it where he has been. Clock is unable to answer that question, thanks to a self-modifying loop virus installed. Clock adds instructions not to remove it. Sentry observes a new device floating in front of the Watchtower and asks Clock what it is. Clock dutifully responds that it's a transmitter, sending out a powerful subliminal message across the entire planet that is powered by his serum. Bob wonders who created the transmitter and asks Clock for a detailed analysis of the device. He orders Clock to disable the transmitter, but Clock refuses to do so, as Sentry himself had ordered him not to. He then asks Clock who gave the last order, and the answer shocks him. The last order was given by Reed Richards. Charles Xavier works in silence, refusing to tell his students what he is worried about, but his students can tell he's spooked. He studies any and all upsurges in psionic activity, keeping a keen eye for the Void. Sentry does not need the help of the Clock. Sentry does not need the help of Clock to disable the transmitter, as it does not have any viruses or tripwires. He can't help but wonder why it was so easy. As soon as the transmitter is turned off, there's a shift in the perception of the world. Everyone remembers Sentry, as if waking up from a dream. Fans of the superhero suddenly see their posters again after years, as if they'd forgotten to see the wall the poster was hanging on. Billy remembers where his uniform was. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief as they know they are protected by the Sentry. Almost immediately, they feel a strong sense of fear, as they also remember the existence of the Void. Finally, Sentry remembers everything too. He remembers his funeral, a setup decided by all the superheroes. The public was enveloped in a critical sadness. His best friend Reed had given the final eulogy. He had told everyone the Sentry was a traitor, a crippling addict who betrayed the trust placed in him by accepting bribes from underworld dons to finance his addictions, a crook who had not hesitated to commit murders and other crimes for his personal gain. As Sentry remembers the lies, he's enraged for being betrayed by Reed, his best friend. Not only was he killed in front of the public, but his honor and glory were stolen from him. Meanwhile, Billy, having remembered who he is, leaves home to fight alongside Sentry as Scout. As Sentry returns home, Lindy rushes out to apologize for doubting him. Sentry harbors no ill will, but Lindy has spiraled since she remembered. Thor had visited a few moments ago, and Lindy does not know if she can deal with the fact that she's married to a superhero. She is adjusted to a life away from the city and is afraid to be punished. She's adjusted to a life away from the city and is afraid to be pushed into a stressful life in the Watchtower. She's not even sure Sentry wants her still. Bob hugs her and assures her that together they can get things back to normal. Lindy and Bob both remember the accusations against him and wonder why such strong claims were made. Suddenly, the Void arrives, grabbing Lindy by the throat as he shows off his gigantic stature. The Void claims he wants the entire universe and more, but first, he'll take Lindy. He then decides against it, as it would be more fun to save Lindy for last. Sentry asks Void if he returned just so that he could have someone that knows him, but the Void, having said his piece, disappears. Bob catches Lindy before she can hit the Earth. The Void left him a message through Lindy. He wanted the Sentry to look inside for the answer. In the news that evening, the weatherman reports a strange, unusual disturbance, a hurricane that rotates clockwise. For more info, he lets Sentry speak. Sentry addresses his fellow Americans and warns them to be aware of a conspiracy that framed him and sent him into exile. He promises to make the responsible ones pay, but before that, there are more pressing matters. He warns them that the Void has returned to the world and most likely to strike New York City. He assures the citizens that necessary arrangements have been made and calls upon his superhero friends to join him in fighting the Void. Hulk joins the Sentry as they wait for the heroes. Hulk tries to be brave for his golden friend, but he's afraid of facing the Void alone. Sentry promises him that he won't let the Void hurt him again. Soon, Sentry's pride surges as he sees all the heroes arriving. From Spider-Man to the X-Men, everyone joins him. Even Billy, who's thrilled to be a superhero, and not just another guy flipping burgers for a living. The last one to arrive is Reed Richards. Sentry demands an explanation from him, but Reed does not remember why he would betray his own friend. Sentry refuses to believe this explanation and leaves him to prepare for the attack from the Void. I absolutely love this miniseries. The first issue is a show stealer. As Bob trudges down the stairs, his wrinkled, weather-beaten face examining the serum, you start to wonder if this is just his imagination running wild. Maybe he's no hero. Maybe he's just an alcoholic dealing with his issues through maladaptive daydreaming. But then the story begins to unfold and an entire conspiracy is laid out in front of you. The art is spectacular too, as it constantly changes gears and adapts different art styles for each of Sentry's memories, almost as if telling you, the reader, that there is a lot of lore in the old comics that you've forgotten. The comic's pretty meta, as you can't recognize this hero either. So, for all intents and purposes, Reed's transmitter got to you too. The Void is not just a mad scientist or a villain conquering worlds for the sake of global domination. The Void is the dark side of a hero that managed to surface. The side that remains dormant in every single human being, the culmination of all of our deepest traumas, strongest fears, and most negative emotions. If I had to guess why Reed did what he did, I would say it had something to do with the fact that the Void is the dark version of the Sentry. Hope that's not a spoiler. If you liked Bob in the movies, or like philosophical explorations and meta-narratives in comic books, I urge you to read The Sentry. I will guarantee you that you will enjoy it. Once you do, come back and tell me in the comments what you think about them. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, I hope you smash that thumbs up, that subscribe button, and ring that bell icon to always stay updated with our content. We'll be back with more awesome stuff, but until then, bye-bye!